So I'm sure a lot of you have this issue here with the side view mirror, the paint peeling off, and it just frankly looks ugly. So you can have it repainted, but fortunately you can order this. It's a replacement mirror. This is actually from Honda Parts Direct, I think I got it from. I'll put a link to it below, but you can use this, and it comes fully painted, ready to install. This is what you get with it. You get a few screws, zip tie, wiring harness, which I actually don't think I'll be using, but at least I didn't on the other side. And here's the tools you need to do. I like some plastic tools to pop it off, a hook to pop off the bottom cover, and the most important thing is a T25 Torx, and having one of these small little bits is very helpful, along with a ratcheting 1/4-inch wrench. Now, the way I'm doing it, you can actually do this without removing the mirror assembly, which means you don't have to take off the interior door panel. So let's get to it. So right now we're looking up from underneath the mirror, and the first thing we need to do is remove that plastic plate right there. Now it's going to be probably hard to see in video, but right here where I'm pointing, there's a little spot where you can get like a little hook tool like this in, and you can just kind of get it up in there and just pull that thing right off. And that gives you access to these 3 screws underneath. Now we'll take those off in a minute, put that panel aside. But the next thing we're going to want to do is remove the mirror itself. So here's the mirror, and the way this works is there's 2 hooks up there that kind of hook into a plastic housing, and then there's 2 hooks down here that are kind of pressure clipped in. So all you have to do is get your fingers under there and give it a good pull, and it pops right out. And you'll see right here, these are the 2 things I was talking about that grip right into there, and there's the bottom ones that grip into right there. Now, what I like to do, I'm not sure if polarity matters on these wires right here, but I like to just get a little piece of painter's tape or whatever, put it on one of the wires. Now, this obviously has the mirror defoggers in it. One side note, I do not have the blinkers on the side mirrors. This is an EX. I don't know what the process is for anything higher trim with the blinkers, but it's probably fairly similar. But the most important thing is if you pull, you'll see you're kind of yanking on this part right there. So what I like to do is get my thumb right on it and just give that a little wiggle, and you can see it comes right off. Now, before we take off the other side, I am going to put just a little piece of tape on that one so that I know that tape goes to tape. So then get my thumb on there, pull that off, and now we have the mirror completely free. We can set that aside. Now, I'm going to bend this to the side so we have a little bit of a better view. Get the camera adjusted. All right, so this is what we're looking at. So there's a few screws that you need to be aware of. Firstly are these screws up here, one right there, and then another one right there, right up there. So it's that one, and that one. And those are actually the 3 that hold the plastic housing onto this mounting bracket in here. Now, first, and unfortunately, we have to take off these 3 screws. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one back in there. And these are all just standard Phillips head screws. And what that does is takes off the motor assembly away from this housing. And we have to do that because these wires have to feed through this hole, and obviously can't do that with the assembly attached. So what I'm going to do is just get in here and undo these 3 screws. Cool. So now this whole housing comes free. And then to make our lives a little bit easier and get the view a little better, I am actually going to take off those 3 screws as well. Okay. So now you see that assembly is loose and this assembly is also loose. So the whole plastic housing is actually currently being held on. There's 1 screw down here, which I'll show you in a second. And then you have your motor assembly here. Now, this is going to be difficult to show, but on the back of the motor assembly are 2 wiring clips. One here and one back there. Now these things do come off, but before we get to that, it's actually easier if we get under here, loosen these 3 bolts so that this whole assembly can move. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so now the next step we need to do is remove these 3 screws here. Now these are so double check, yeah, these are T25 Torx. Like I said, this thing right here is a lifesaver. I don't think it's possible to do this with this still on the door without a bit that small, and I'll show you why. So you'll see that these bolts are all angled towards the door. So they're on like maybe not quite a 45, but angled in. So with this one, I can actually get in here with a ratchet on this first one and undo this. Now, the part I have, you actually get replacements for all 3 of these screws, which is nice. So I won't be reusing these, but all other screws except for these 3 will be reused. So there's the first one. Now, of course I dropped my bit. Okay, found my bit. So now for these ones, I can't get in here. There's not enough clearance with my ratchet. So what I did is I have a 1/4 inch just ratcheting in gear wrench thing here. So I put the bit right in there and then I get the wrench on it, and that is just enough clearance to get in there and undo these screws. If you don't have this, like I said, probably gonna have to take off the entire mirror assembly to access these screws. So all right, what is it? No. And there's 2. All right, so let's go back up there and I'll show you what we got. All right, so now with those removed, you can see this entire assembly is now loose. And we can get a really good look at what we're dealing with here with the motor. But before we do that, there's 1 more screw to replace or take out, and it's that guy right there. So I have this, and probably best to rotate this back so it's not in the way of that screw. There we go. So now that screw comes out, and now these are 2 completely separated pieces, which is awesome. But the problem is now that these wires, if you look right here, the wires have to go down through that, down through the center of, there's a shaft right here, and that connects to this wire right here. So in order to do that, we have to take the wires off the motor assembly. Now, fortunately, these you can just kind of pull up and those just come right out. There's the gray one and a black one. Whoa. Try not to drop your motor assembly. You will be needing that later. So there's the back of the motor assembly, and that's where those two tabs go. So now that's free. We will need to put that back in. So now what you're left with are these two plugs right here. All right, so at this point I'd recommend just taking a picture so you know it's brown, yellow, blue, brown right here in those. Now you see there's a brown on each side. So again, what I'm gonna do, grab some tape and just get a little piece of tape on, I'll just put it on the gray one, and a piece of tape right here on that brown wire. And that way I know that that brown wire goes to that gray one. I actually don't know if that's necessary, but let's just not get the wires crossed if we can help it. So to get these out, it's actually pretty easy. You just hold it in your hand and you just pull straight up and it just comes right out just like that. So now that's free, okay? And now we'll do the same thing with this black one there. So see, that's free. Yep, and the wires are all free. So now, all we have to do is take these wires out like this, and out, they're just kind of in some clips in there. You can see they're just clipped in right there. You just wave them all around, and now the wires are all free. And this entire assembly can now be lifted off. Just gently pull the wires through, and this is now free. So we now have a completely free part from the car. And we just got to do everything backwards. Sorry about that, FedEx had to swing by. So, back to where we were. So we got this piece, here's the new piece, and I get the assembly back in there. Now the first thing I'm going to do is get these wires, fed right through in there. And just be, you know, a little patient with this part. It can be a little bit tedious, but it's not too bad as wiring goes. Let's see, we got those coming out right there. All right, let's get the defroster lines coming through. All right. Cool. So we have all our wires out. So let's go ahead and get these back through. Now remember, these go around the back like so. Right into the clip right there, okay? And then around the bottom here, okay? So those wires are in place. Now, the order of operations really doesn't matter a ton here, but I do like to start off getting this screw back. So just get that lined up. Put this screw in. Nice and snug. And I can go ahead and get this wire situated, making sure that I don't know what I want to call this, some kind of a seal. Get that all in there. Perfect. All right, we are looking good. So this, I'm just going to get one screw put under here just so it kind of holds it more in place. And I'm going to use one of the new screws that the kit came with and go ahead and get this in. There we go. So now it's a little bit more secure. a little bit easier to work on. So get those under that clip. So first things first, let's get our wires situated here. And I actually got to pause the video because I got to go back and look at the order. 1 second. All right, we are back from the instant replay. So the first one I'm going to do is the side with the tape. So there's my tape piece. And it's brown, yellow, blue, brown. So we'll take this tape off because we don't need any more. And this just literally slides right in here. Like so. Give it a little tug. You can see that's in there good. And take this tape off as well. So it's brown, yellow. So just slide that right back in. There we go. So both of these are in real nice. And now we got to get the blue and brown on the black one. There's a little here. Whoop. Yeah. All right, finally got it. It's always the last one, isn't it? So, the nice thing is, I don't know if you can see this, but on the bottom, this is labeled gray and that's labeled black. So you actually don't have to guess which one goes where, which was nice of the Honda engineers to do. Kind of makes up for them angling the bolts towards the car there. So get that one on. Actually, probably easier to do the black one first. There we go. Let's get that one in there, like so. Okay, that's nice and in there. And get the gray one in, like so. Okay, so now we got both working. So at this point, it's probably not a bad idea. Just throw your keys in your car. Let's just make sure this works. All right, we got motion in all 4 directions. So we're in good shape. Now there's really only one way this goes in. So just rotate it. I think that's it. Making sure the wires are still good. Oh, there it is. Okay. So one thing to remember, these are going to be going in to holes that have already had screws in them, which means the screws are self-tapping, but they've already cut threads into the plastic. So one good thing to do when you're going into old holes is actually go backwards and you'll feel it click. And that means you're actually in the old threads. And that way you're not cutting new threads in a spot where the threads already exist. Just a handy little tip there. Anytime you're going back into plastic. Also works on wood too, but especially on plastic, it's nice to do. So we'll get this one in here. There we go. Now I'm going to screw backwards. There it is. And you'll feel it. It's nice and easy to screw in. Like it almost feels like I'm going into metal threads. And then this one, get in, screw backwards. There it is. And in. Nice. Okay. Now, make sure these are nice and tight. Cool. Now these ones, let's just get the screws and screw the new housing in. Now, This one, you don't have to do the backwards thing because this one's never had thread screwed into it. So we can just simply cut our own. Alrighty. So now all I got left to do is I'm gonna just put the 3 screws under there. I don't think you guys need to watch that. And then when we come back, we will rehook up the mirror, get it clipped in, test it, and make sure it works. All right, we're back. So I got the 3 screws under there and that plastic cover put back on. So literally all that's left to do is to get the wires here for the defroster hooked up. So let's go ahead and do that. Now remember, we did put tape on it. So we'll do the one without tape first. Pop that in. Again, I don't know if polarity matters. I didn't feel like looking up a whole wiring diagram just to do this when you can just mark which one goes where. All right. And now for the tricky part. Not really, but so like I said before, this mirror, you kind of got to get those teeth into that notch and then pop it in. So what I've done is I've got the motor centered and all the way down. This is as far down as it'll go on the switch before it hits the limiter. Those 2 teeth go in those right there, and then those will grab down there. So I have it all the way down because you gotta give it a nice little push on the bottom there. So what I'm gonna do is just get it right up there. So now it's hanging from the top. You can see it's still wiggly, so give it a little push. And that should about do it. Just make sure it's on there, and then there, and that's it. It's done. Yeah, pretty big improvement. Not bad for a, I think I paid $75 each. So cheaper than a body shop, and frankly, probably a better result too. So good luck.